All right, we're back again. Judd'z Budz, episode 142. There's been one number 43 in Minnesota Wild history. So it's Wayne Gretzky plus
Tom Wilson.
Yep, he's on the Wild. Ward Peters, fun fact, from 2011 to 2012, I guess. Played like 60-something games, I think. Whatever. As always, your host, Bugsy, joined by my good buddy, Mr. At State of Hoppy. How we doing?
I'm going to one-up your claim there, and we're going to go Gretzky plus Gaborik plus Newman.
Wow. Okay, I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
That's something.
Suck it, nerd. We're giving her. We're going to continue to power through after just recording 2 hours that dropped last week. Why not do more now?
Why not?
Do we want to lead in? We've got three kind of headings of what we're going to talk about. You want to start more like prospect realm? Do you want to talk Minnesota Wild or specifically Marco Rossi?
Doesn't really. Maybe we start Minnesota Wilds.
All right. Well, Minnesota Wild are hurt, and by now, for all we know, over the weekend they're more hurt. Who knows? But Brodin, Ek, Lauko, it's not great. And it actually is funny enough that this was spurred from our last recording when you said basically that Jake Middleton is slowly working himself up the chart of irreplaceable players that you do not want getting hurt right now. So we just said, let's make a list. Let's rank the players that we don't want getting hurt in order. And we're going to kind of do it off the cuff here, but I feel like there are two players that are firmly in the discussion for the one spot. Do you feel like there's more than two, or do you feel like it's a gimme that one of those two is a firm lock as the one?
I would probably say, yeah. I mean, there's two that are far ahead of anyone else, to be honest.
Okay, so who are you taking of those two as your one?
Oh, man.
Because I think we're going to have different answers.
I think I'm going to actually,
Oh, never mind. Whenever you start like that, we're going to agree.
When I first thought about this, I was going in the other direction, but I do think at this point, actually, Kaprizov is going to be my number one.
Oh, so we don't agree.
Okay. I knew you were going to go Gustafsson, so.
What are the Wild doing this year without a goalie? There's so many games maybe caved. And again, that's not to diminish what Kirill Kaprizov has done. He is firmly leading the Hart Trophy debate right now. But goddamn, Gustafsson has been more than we could have asked for, and it's been so critical. And especially as we're dealing with some of these other injuries, he's all that more important. Now, again, you're splitting hairs. It's 1A, 1B. I would pick Gus, but I have no problem with anyone saying Kaprizov here.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to spend much time on it. Those are the two obvious ones. I don't think anyone's going to argue with us on either of them. The real debate then goes to number 3. Where do you fall on number 3? And it can be among the players who are currently injured as well. But who is the third player on the team as far as we can't lose this guy?
Well, and I mean, just real quick though, before we move on from the Gus versus Kaprizov thing, the one thing I really wasn't expecting this year is the discrepancy in games played between Fleury and Gustafsson. So on one hand, I'm sitting there well, Fleury hasn't lost in regulation. His one loss was in overtime, but he's played 6 fucking games.
Yeah.
And he's got a 905 with a 264. So that would also tip it probably more towards Gustafsson than Kaprizov in the first place. But when I just look at what Kaprizov's doing, the fact that he's probably the Hart front runner right now. He's got 15 more points than the next closest guy. And like, he's doing it regardless of who he's playing with. You take out that scoring element combined with like the hits they're taking defensively with how many guys keep getting hurt, and who knows what happens with like a guy like Spurgeon who's had that long. He's playing really fucking well right now. Obviously he's healthy, but like he had a little bit of an injury scare, and you just look at guys like him, Merrill, Bogosian playing big minutes or bigger minutes than we probably were anticipating coming into the year. Like if you take that top line scoring out in Kaprizov, I that's why I landed there.
Yeah,
but it is tough to like gauge, which like the fact that Fleury's only played 6 fucking games this year.
So for me, where like I split the hairs and lean to Gus, I think the Wild are more built.
Yeah.
Like, let's just say that the only player you lose is either Kaprizov or Gus. I think this is a team that's more equipped to win a 2-1 game than a 6-5 game.
Yeah.
Because you lose Gus, you're playing the 6-5 boat race. You lose Kaprizov, let's try and squeak out a 2-1 win. That just feels more like what Bill Guerin has built if you don't have Kaprizov, right? But, again, splitting hairs. Who comes in at number 3 for you? Or how many players are in the discussion for, like, this next tier, since we've firmly established Gus and Kaprizov as the top tier?
I think I've
got like anywhere from 2 to 4 guys that could probably be in this next tier.
Yeah, I go between 3 and 4. And I'm not including guys that are already hurt, by the way. I'm not.
Oh, so you're not including any guys that are already hurt. Then I'm thinking 1, 2. I probably got 3 or 4. I would say 3, but 3 or 4.
Yeah. And given, and this is assuming neither
let's
Kaprizov
not even
or
go to
Gustafsson
3.
are also injured.
Right,
but
right.
I do think at this point, I think at this point now, I think I do go Middleton here with how well he's played this year.
Huh.
And this is assuming that you're also not losing Kaprizov and Gustafsson
totally.
combined with all the injuries that they already have.
Totally.
But Jake Middleton, I mean, he's got 13 points in 25 games. He's 6th on the team in scoring. He's playing 21 minutes a night. Defensively, he's shutting guys down. Like, he's become a critical. Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do if you don't have the quotes?
Top titty 2x4.
Thank you. I think I ultimately lean towards Middleton just over Matt Boldy.
Before we even like finish out, like, who's in the tier? You said 3 or 4 guys. Give me the 4. I want to see if we're aligned on this or not.
Middleton, Boldy, Rossi, Faber.
Okay. Is that your order or just saying names?
First instinct is to go in that order. I might switch Rossi and Faber.
I would definitely switch Rossi and Faber, and I get what you're saying with Middleton, and I agree with the rationale. I still think Middleton changes if he doesn't have the right guys to lean on. True. And like losing a Faber who's munching a ton of those minutes changes what Middleton's doing. Now, if you just like put it in a vacuum and say Middleton's role changes in no way because Faber's out, then I'm okay with your argument. Mm-hmm. But the trickle-down effect, I'm going to put Faber ahead of him, and I even would put Boldy ahead. But like very minimal separation. I think Rossi's the one that, like, I love Marco Rossi. I will defend him to the end of time. He's arguably not in this tier for me. He's like right on the edge. He's either the last guy in or the first guy out.
Yeah. So it's interesting too. Like, because when I think part of the reason I even had, like, I put Middleton there, like ahead of those guys, is a little bit of recency bias, probably, where like last few games, again, aside from the fucking media stuff and this, like, the quote machine that he is, like, he's just like, not only like is he putting up more numbers than I would have anticipated. I mean, he's on track to shatter his like single season point like total record for himself. But so I think that probably has something to do with the fact that I put him there. And I mean, has he been injured? Like, has he had any like big injuries since he got here or he got to Minnesota? I always say here, and I'm like, I don't live in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he hasn't. He's missed before this season. He missed, I think, 4 games. And so I think that maybe that, again, the fact that he has never been.
Though. Hang on. I think there's a player that we disrespected here that I think slots in above Rossi and is firmly in this tier.
Well, there's another one that I was going to bring up that's like slowly, just given how it's gone and he stayed healthy again, like Spurgeon.
Yeah, Spurgeon, absolutely. I think Spurgeon has been really good, and it's weird that people still want to say that Spurgeon's been bad or isn't good. And a hot take that I had last week on Fellowship of the Rank, not that he should make it, but I think there should have been more discussion around Spurgeon's candidacy to be one of the guys on Team Canada. I know that he's not 7 feet tall, but like he's played freaking good since he came back.
Right. He's been
real good.
And I mean, again, he got hurt a little bit, and we're like, oh my God. And it was like, it would sound like one of the things was like, we don't know what it is.
Sure. But if you want to go toe to toe with the dirtbag Kachucks, why not bring in the guy that's going to like chop off Achilles tendons?
Yeah, fair enough.
Just fucking Brady's down on the ice. Spurgeon goes down and just bites his Achilles off.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I think we're pretty much in line on that though.
Yeah, and again, so like I want to at least mention that part about Middleton, just given like I do think it's just been like how well he's played the last like probably 2 weeks. He's just been a fucking animal all over the ice and everything. And then I was feeling the same thing about Rossi, by the way, but then like the reason that I put him in this tier is because outside of like the obvious Kaprizov Boldy thing, they really do struggle for offense as far as like the, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say middle or bottom six. But like as far as guys that can generate points regardless of who they're playing with. And like Rossi, again, he can be a ghost for a period or two. Yeah. And then boom, all of a sudden he assists on the OT winner the other night against Vancouver. Sure. And I'm like, if you lose the guy who like, regardless of who he's played with, has put up just shy point per game numbers, then I think that's why I end up including him in this tier. Cause it's like, again, like Hines would like bench him for fucking like 5 shifts. Next shift he's out there, he gets another goal or gets an assist or whatever it is. And like big goals, big assists, like he's come up in big moments. And just like given the fact that like we mentioned this last week, aka 2 hours ago, the fact that the big sign in the offseason has 1 assist in 25 games, and like you're looking for any kind of secondary offense, the fact that Rossi can just produce regardless of who his line mates are, I think that's why I end up having him like pretty firmly in this tier. But like that's just fair. given the fact that I do recognize it's like at the same time, like there's an argument like, yeah, does he belong there? But like for me, just the fact that he's able to produce the way he's producing out of nothing is something that you don't really have a lot of in this lineup.
That's very fair. Am I fair to say that no one else that's currently healthy really falls onto this kind of list, and it's really Brodin and Eck who would both probably be top 5 on the list?
Yeah, I think so.
Like Eck would be number 3 for me.
Yeah.
And Brodin's probably 4 or 5 based on how he's played.
Mm-hmm.
The one I'll give an honorable mention to, who would you peg as like your next guy who's not on the list, but like deserves commendation? So I feel like there's like 2 or 3 that could be discussed, but there's one that I'm very keen on. I feel like you're going to go against me.
For the comedic element, there's 2.
Okay, well, I'm not going for the comedic element.
they've produced recently, and they've been just like solid contributors on whatever line they're on, despite like the points not jumping out. I think Freddie Gaudreau, with how well he's played recently, now he's got 14 points in 25 games, and fucking like Johansson has points in like 7 of 8. Like,
dear Lord.
But the one I go is, I think I end up leaning towards like Foligno.
See, I figured you would say Foligno, and I respect it. Declan Chisholm has been a fucking rock star lately.
He's been so good. He's been so fucking good.
If he can keep playing that way and we can get a healthy blue line, like, holy shit. Like, do the Wild all of a sudden have, like, a top 3 blue line in the league?
Might.
Middleton, Faber, Spurgeon, Brodin, Chisholm, insert 6th guy. Maybe it ends up being Jiricek. Like,
Yeah.
Granted, I don't know if that ever happens because I don't think they'll take Bogosian out of the lineup. But like, even if Bogo's the 6th guy, like, hi, how are you?
Oh, that reminds me. Once you brought up Bogosian, so we were laughing about the titles that Isha throws on these. So like one of the StreamYard ones for him and Brett's next thing, it is so in all caps. Actually,
next thing or the thing that they're doing probably live right now as we're recording this?
They are starting right now. Actually, it's literally starting right now.
They haven't started yet because I'm pretty sure Isha streams it through my account, and I'm looking right now on Twitter, and it has not started. But
it's
really
scheduled for 9:35. Either way, analytics explained. That was in all caps. David Jiricek trade. Is Zach Bogosian that bad? Oh my god.
It's funny, man. I actually like I spent a lot of time thinking through and being like, why are you doing this? And I tried to coach Isha on it and explain how like caps lock should be used to like emphasize words appropriately, like as if you were talking. And he always told me he understood, and then like it never sunk in, and I just stopped caring because it's now just like a funny thing for me. And like I know Isha's gonna listen to this, and I don't care because he knows that this is how I feel. But like, yeah, Isha will never figure out caps lock, and he'll also never care. He has 0 shame glands in his body. He blows up the group chat with fight videos that no one comments on or cares about, and he doesn't give a shit, and I respect the hell out of it.
Yeah, no, it rocks. I love it.
So yeah, all right. Well, that's a good tier breakdown. Yeah, if literally anyone that we just talked about gets hurt, we're in for a tough go, I would say. All right. Well, next we've got to talk then about. It might not be weekly, but it'll be most weeks now. Marco Rossi trade possibilities. I do not want him traded. Let's be clear. I am trying to speak this out of existence. I'm trying to reverse jinx this shit. And hey, if we come up with a couple of like soft landings where fans would be okay with a trade, then at least we can like kind of cope together. But this is not me advocating for a trade. This is me saying Bill Guerin seems like he doesn't want to keep Marco Rossi around. So let's come up with ways that we could not totally hate our lives when it happens. And mine actually came from Z's boy Cam Robinson making his video post about how there's whispers that Dallas might want to go after Evgeni Malkin. We got LTIR for Sagan. That makes the money work. They have, obviously you'd have to throw in some draft picks. They've got young studs like Wyatt Johnston. They've got, Logan Stankoven, whatever. If you're willing to part with those kind of pieces, maybe it's Thomas Harley, whatever. But I don't get the vibe, and he made this same comment. Like, Malkin probably doesn't want to go to Dallas. Doesn't know anyone there. Comfortable in Pittsburgh. Totally content retiring in Pittsburgh, even though he's frustrated right now with how the team's playing. I replied and basically said that I will see his Sagan LTIR and raise him a Brodin LTIR, this being contingent on Brodin actually going forward with surgery, which I know has been discussed as a possibility. If he goes on LTIR and you have more than enough then to bring Malkin in, We are probably, I would say, I got to think we are the number one destination if Malkin could pick where he went. Maybe, I don't know if the hate runs deep enough or what it would be. I'd be interested to know if he wants to go to Washington and like center Ovechkin as he breaks the record. I don't know if they're boys or if they hate each other at this point, where that sits. But Billy Guerin and Marc-Andre Fleury here make it real easy and comfortable for him to come over. Plus being guaranteed to center Kirill Kaprizov. I think Malkin is willing to waive. Marco Rossi is immediately the guy that you have to have be kind of the front of that trade. What do you think needs to be included? Or is it just a 1-for-1 if it's Rossi and Malkin? Like, what do you think a trade looks like that is centered on Marco Rossi and Evgeni Malkin?
It's so tough to gauge because I'm at the point now where I actually have no idea what other teams, like how they value Marco Rossi. And along with that, if you're parting ways with Marco Rossi, not getting anything that would like be around in 3 or 4 years, really, like the first time you've gone out and like really drafted a guy like Rossi who could potentially be a top 6 center for years and years and years in Minnesota, had the pedigree
the
coming
2022
in.
draft, but
No, I'm saying like at the time, like, yeah, God damn it. Like the fact, like the idea of parting ways with Marco Rossi and then not getting anything future related.
Sure.
I don't like that. Evgeni Malkin would be a very fun player to have here. And the fact that he's still producing ridiculous offense, and the fact that, like, yeah, like you were mentioning, like the guys he could be playing with, the fact that Billy Garrett's here, the fact that him and Fleury are absolute boys. And he literally tweeted the crying emoji when Fleury was taken by Vegas in the expansion draft. It's a fun fit that makes sense. Like, it's just so weird. It's so weird.
But also, like, this isn't
I could see
like
both teams being like, I want more.
Right, but that's what makes it a good trade. It's just like the freaking Zucker trade. Both teams are like, I don't think we got enough. That's when you know it's a fair trade. And it'll be the exact same scenario, too, where, like, I was so conflicted when that trade happened. I loved Zucker, loved Addison. Seeing them switch places was, like, jarring, but at the same time, I bought both jerseys right away. And I would absolutely do the same thing here. This would be that on steroids. And Evgeni Malkin is not some, like, dwindling old man. Like, he's got at least, like, this year and another year of good hockey in him. Like, the guy is a difference maker when he's on his game, and him and Kaprizov could be terrifying. And the reason you do this is, one, Guerin's not keeping Rossi. He's made the decision. He's moving on. And you want to push the chips in quick. This solves both those things and gets you like a reasonable value. And again, it's not going to hurt ticket sales to bring Evgeni Malkin in here for 2 or 3 years. Like that works well. It gives you time to usher in Yurov, gives you yet another guy to mentor in Danila Yurov. I just could see that working for so many reasons. And again, Marco Rossi going in as a young center to like begin Kyle Dubas's youth movement over there makes a ton of sense too. I don't know. It just makes way too much sense to me if Brodin went on LTIR and you wanted to make that kind of swing. Of course, we both know it'll end up being Brock Nelson instead of Evgeni Malkin, but whatever. But I would like, I am a Penguins fan, and I definitely want to see the Wild succeed. I fully sign off on this trade for both sides. To your point, both sides would want more. That tells me it's a good deal. throw in a pick or something for either side if you think that it's tilted slightly, but if Rossi has to leave and if Malkin's leaving Pittsburgh, I love this.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like the big thing that we always mention, if it really is a foregone conclusion that the Marco Rossi trade's happening, if that's happening in season, you have that cannot be a trade that you make only to get futures,
right?
So it would have to be someone that immediately steps in and plays 1 or 2C. It has to be.
Yep.
So in that realm, it makes sense. It's just so funny because one's very young, one's for
Malkin
a
looks
athlete,
younger.
very old. Yeah, I know, right? One is
did I show you that picture that
Marco
I made?
Rossi's 5'10". It's so funny how so much about them is different, and yet you're trying to figure out who would be asking for more in a trade. It's just so funny.
I need to find this now. Did I ever show you the image that I made of when we were talking about it? You're like, I need to see Malkin's face on Hoppy's baby's body.
Oh God.
Did I ever show you what I made?
No.
Now I need to find. Oh, here it is. I'm going to real quick. All right. Take a second and continue talking while I get this exported. But I'm going to re-add this here and throw it on the screen because it's fantastic.
Yeah. All right. So while you do that, every time, since this is going to end up becoming a somewhat regular thing that happens, or a segment,
Potentially,
I cannot emphasize enough, unless the return is so lopsided in Minnesota's favor, regardless of what the return is, I will feel very uneasy and not great about a Marco Rossi trade in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. Again, unless it's it's McDavid for Rossi 1-for-1. Obviously not that specifically, but if it's that lopsided, then it's okay, you have to do that. Oh my God. That is, why is it look insane, but also not as horrific as I thought it was?
It doesn't look as insane as you'd expect.
I'm yeah, that's a real person.
This is why everyone needs to go to the YouTube channel, the Sota Pod. Subscribe. This is the content you come for. Malkin's face on a baby's body with a bow tie, suspenders, and arm rolls.
His head is the same, just smaller than the rest of the body, toe to shoulder. That is, wow. Okay, holy shit. Oh my God.
It's the content you didn't know you needed, man.
That fucked my life up. But either way, I cannot emphasize enough the fact that not only what I was mentioning before about the first time that they actually went out and got in the draft a guy that's holy shit, this could be a potential top 6 center for 20 years in the NHL. And then but even beyond that, the path that he's been on to get to where he is now, it feels crazy that once he overcomes every obstacle possible, has the breakout first full season in the NHL, and is now on pace to almost double that production, regardless of who he's it's been he's just been an incredible story. And in a position that the best players at that position are their overall profile, in terms of the build, the style, is just so polar opposite of a lot of what Marco Rossi brings to the table. And yet here he is producing and being a huge part of your success. It just feels crazy to think and then he's going to get traded at 22, 23 years old. It's nuts.
Again, the purpose of this is that I'm trying to change all the juju and make sure he stays.
Yeah, regardless of how we frame it, people will either be on one side or they're angry at us no matter what. But
oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But all right. Next up, we're talking prospects, draft, whatever. we'll start with the Minnesota Wild aspect of this. Straight up, Z. Can Riley Heidt make Team Canada for World Junior?
Can he make it? Yes. And
in this economy?
Yeah, in this economy. I think it's probably pretty unlikely. That being said, Team Canada is one of those teams at this event that's like, if you do have they actually don't know what that roster is going to end up looking like. They actually put a ton of value in this camp. So if he just like pops off and has a ridiculously good camp, there's a good chance he makes this team. And I think again, like a big reason that he could too is the fact that he can play that role in there. Like if they want to slot him into like their fourth line or whatever, he can still be Riley Heidt as far as like his offensive skill set, but he does play a really good two-way game. He's very fucking physical. And he can like kill penalties for you too while giving you the offensive upside. It's just like, given the fact that they're bringing, like for the first time in a long time, this team's bringing a lot of guys to camp that even if they bring every single one of like the big players, this will be like the smallest Team Canada we've seen in a very long time. Like, I mean, even a guy like Yakemchuk didn't even get a camp invite. So like they probably still want to find a big two-way forward for that like third or fourth line or whatever. And then they're bringing a bunch of like super, super, super high upside players offensively. So could he make the team? Yes. It's probably pretty unlikely unless he just goes all the way off in camp. But either way, this is a Team Canada that's going to look significantly different than they have in years past. And they're bringing a lot more young guys than I thought they were going to, like draft eligibles. Yeah. Like a lot of those guys got invites to camp. I got to pull it up again. And like some big snubs from camp.
Yeah, we got to talk to snubs, dude.
Expecting.
Would Iginla be there if not for the hip surgery, or was the decision made before that?
No, I think that was a 50-50 one too. And you just listen to people talk like before that hip surgery came to light, like he was one guy that like he might not even end up on the team or even get invited to camp. And there you go, he didn't get invited to camp.
All right, well then I got two glaring ones, and I'm sure you have like several more beyond it. But the guy who jumped up and surprised at third overall to Z's favorite NHL team, the Anaheim Ducks, Sennecke not being even invited feels crazy. And then Carter Yakemchuk, guy who torched in the preseason, looks great. It's being played in Ottawa, where he was drafted. Not even invited to camp. How are those two left off? From the camp invites, not from the team, camp invites.
It's the Yakemchuk one is specific. Like I was almost like just penciling him in like into that starting lineup either way. Especially when I look at I need to pull up his OHL stats this season to see what he's doing. I mean, yeah, this is great. Like they invited Cam Allen from Guelph, the Washington Capitals pick, who like going into his draft season 2 years ago was looked at as like a potential first defenseman off the board. He ended up falling to the 5th round after having a really bad OHL season. He's like a 6-foot, somewhat physical offensive defenseman who's like the foot speed isn't crazy or anything like that. He's he gets the invite. I mean, even like someone like Bo Akey, that's an interesting choice over like a Yakemchuk getting all the options they had.
Super triggering for me that on the list that I saw for Team Canada's invites, they still had Braden Yeager listed as Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that hurt. Huh?
That wasn't fun for me.
That was brutal. But yeah, I mean, when you look at like their decor, especially on the right side, they invite Andrew Gibson as a 6'4", 200-pound guy from the Sault Ste. Marie, Detroit Red Wings draft pick. You also have Brunick, who's awesome. I fucking love. I told you this when they drafted him. When Pittsburgh drafted Brunick, I was like, that's a fucking great pick.
They've got someone that matters.
Yeah, he's a very fluid skater, offensively inclined guy, not super physical at all, but like legit player, very fun to watch. Oliver Bonk, he's a 6'2", super physical prick on the ice. And then you've got like Cam Allen and Bo Hickey there that are both 6 foot, somewhat physical. Oh, actually, like Bo Hickey's like pretty offensive. Cam Allen, same thing. So like the fact that Yakemchuk didn't even get an invite, that's crazy to me. When you just look at like what they usually have liked to do. Again, we mentioned this when Carson Lambos got left off a couple of years ago. It was like the shortest guy on the back end was like 6'3". Like they always like to bring the big physical a decor. So it was very interesting that like Yakemchuk didn't get the invite to camp. And like you said, in Ottawa.
That insane. Is there anyone else that you feel was like a notable snub? Like that you could make the case for a ton of Canadian guys, but there's anyone that you're like, I really expected to see them on this list?
Maybe it's not as crazy, but like I was surprised also like the combination of both Yakemchuk and Marek not getting the invite. And then like I think a lot of the discussion was like, can you bring both? Like, do you have to pick like which one would they pick if they want to do that? And the fact that neither, I think it's the combo of both of them not even getting the invite. That's crazy. And I mean, like historically, again, especially for defensemen, they don't really like bringing a ton of NHL draft eligible guys that aren't like 6'5". But Matthew Schaefer, who we'll talk about at some point here, he gets the invite over both Yakemchuk and Marek, who's very interesting. Well, and I mean, like Matthew Schaefer absolutely deserves to be invited here.
There's a reason for that because, like you said, Z, we're talking about him. Jeff Marek, Cam Robinson, I'm sure there's several others, have firmly endorsed Matthew Schaefer as the first overall pick in the 2025 NHL Draft. We'll start with, can you see it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that was an easy oh yeah, so we'll move past that. At this point, how many players do you think are truly in consideration for the first overall pick?
Right now, I'd probably say you've got James Higgins, Michael Misa, Porter Martone, Roger McQueen, and Matthew Schaefer in discussion.
Oh, you got McQueen in that list. Okay.
Yeah, maybe he probably, but like a big reason, honestly, is the fact he's a fucking like physical 6'5", good two-way player who's skating.
I'm not challenging him. It's more just like,
I'm just saying.
I haven't heard him in that breath yet, so it was interesting to me.
Yeah. No, I the start that he had before. I think he ended up getting hurt at some point, but
okay, so you got 5 guys. I want you right now, if you were drafting today, I want the order you would take them in. Like team agnostic, like don't draft for need, just your big board. Rank the 5.
I'll probably for now still go with Higgins first. I think I've got to the point where I would put Matthew Schaefer at 2. Actually, yeah, I will put Schaefer at 2. Misa 3, Porter Martone 4, Roger McQueen 5. And like Schaefer is terrifyingly.
Misa's popping.
Like, he is like soaring, and I did not, especially when you consider the fact that like the big. And you can't even really call it a big knock, but it was like coming into the year was like, hey, can Schaefer like put up a little bit more offense than he did last year? Then he had, what's it called? Oh my God, mono, and it was like that'll probably affect like the lungs as he starts his season off here. And at this point, he has 19 points in 15 games. Last year, he had 17 points in 56 OHL games. So, like, he is a dynamic two-way defenseman. He's a 6'2". He's like 190, I think 185, 190 pounds. He is capable of being physical. He is so fun to watch jump up on the rush. And, like, the decision-making, like, his hockey IQ is incredible. He knows exactly when to go, when to stay. And, like, every time we're going to talk about Matthew Schaefer, I'm going to mention the fact that he is just under 1 week shy of being eligible for the 2026 draft. I think he's like the second or third youngest player in this draft. And he is so much farther ahead in terms of like the hockey IQ, how smart he is than like pretty much every other player. And like the progression of the offense this year is just unbelievable. So I wouldn't be shocked if by the end of the year or end of the year, dude, like let's say he makes this World Juniors team and like legitimately just it's insane, goes off. I might end up having him firmly at like number one. And like it's always funny because like anyone that's been a Matthew Schaefer truther for a while, you like watch him for one game, you're like, that looks like Miro Heiskanen. And then I saw the other day, Cam Robinson was like, that is Miro Heiskanen. I was like, holy shit. And then my other buddy Derek was like, he is just younger, actually, like a baby version of Miro Heiskanen. I was like, holy shit.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that. I love Miro Heiskanen.
Unbelievable. And I mean, Bob McKenzie's most recent big board, he had him at 2. So there you go. Like it's well shared opinion that he is flirting with first overall.
So curious your opinion then, because we know how these drafts go, right? Another 1 or 2 defensemen are for sure to sneak in just because of positional need. On your big board, if you had to make one today, I don't need you to round out the rest of it, but would you have another defenseman in your top 10 as it currently sits? I gotta think no. Because you had 2 other guys that were in that discussion in our way too early rankings. I feel like both of them, like they're both still first round picks. I don't know if they're top 10.
No. Yeah, no, I would. There's the only 2 or 3 that would like potentially flirt with the top 10 would be Jackson Blake. Oh my God. Jackson Smith. Logan Hensler and maybe like Radim Murtka, maybe. And that one feels like
okay.
Yeah, no, honestly.
I didn't know Jackson Smith was even on your radar for top 10 because I know the 2 that you talked about a lot in the way too early were Hensler and Trethaway. But yeah, I mean, Hensler, it's just tough when your team is that dog shit.
Yeah.
And I wish that I felt bad for him, but I don't. You sign up
legally.
for a scumbag organization, you deserve it.
Legally, you can't.
I'm surprised he even gets ice time. He's way too young. He's got a really good fake ID.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. Okay. Interesting. Then I got to ask you, because it was 2 guys that you talked about quite a bit in the way too early. Anton Frundell. Is he somewhere between 6 and 10? Is he in the teens? Like, where is he for you today?
He's probably 9 through 12.
Okay, fair. And what about Ivan Ryabkin?
Somewhere around 15 to 20.
Okay. So he's fallen off quite a bit.
Well, he's just not getting, like, it's the same thing we talked about with, like, all of these fucking Russian guys in the KHL.
Right. We know
and
it.
I know, but, like, there have been more games where you're just, like, looking for something.
Okay.
Even when he has gotten played to the MHL. And then, like, again, he's a guy that, like, when he does decide to go off, it's like, oh, fuck. Every time he touches the puck, he's going SportsCenter top 10 mode.
Sure.
But it's just been, I mean, he's barely played any hockey this season. It's crazy. I think he scored his first goal, like, 3 days ago.
That's tough. Okay. That's very tough and fair. Shit. Okay. Well, to round out this episode then, Z, we just got to hit a pause quick. Rumored, you haven't bought a ticket yet, but rumored that you will be coming to town later this week. Talk about it.
I'm going to be coming to town later this week. And it's going to rock. We're going to watch a lot of hockey games. We might have a beverage or 2.
Unlikely.
And I'll be doing the same thing I did last year, the Frozen 4, and just putting a tweet out there. Where am I going? Where do I go right
This
now?
is your tweet right now. Like, we need comments. Thursday night, we know where you're going to go. You're going to be on West 7th because we're going to go to the Edmonton Oilers game. But then we're checking out one Charlie Stramel against the Gophers Friday and Saturday. So anyone that has strong Dinkytown / general area around their recommendations, throw them our way. Where does Z need to go? What's he need to see? Bummer. It does sound like Matthew Wood will not be playing that weekend, Z, because Canada sucks and they make their guys leave that much earlier than the U.S. camp does. So that's a bummer. But yeah, I really, if you know anything about the man that goes by Spoke Z, he wants the diviest, grungiest bar he can possibly find.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like you say that all the time, and I'm like, I'll go fucking, I don't know, I'll go anywhere, but like,
You'll go anywhere, but if it's your choice, you want the dive bar.
My choice is just like anything that doesn't resemble a club. Oh, and there goes the headphones.
I'll never take you to a club.
No, I know that. I'm just saying, like, but it's never like I need a dive bar.
Yeah. All right, fair. I got a different vibe when you visited last, but I'll allow it. That's fair.
Well, last time you were like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "I don't think you understand. I'm the most simple human being when it comes to going places with people. I don't give a fuck." I'm like, you're like, "But what do you need to see before you leave?" I was like, "Nothing. I don't need to see anything. I don't give a fuck."
All right,
I went to the Frozen games.
We're not going.
Reads.
We're going to 0 hockey games, and we won't leave my basement the entire trip.
Just gonna hang out at Hoppy's house.
Yep, he's gonna cuddle my dog and say horrible things to her.
We're not gonna go there. We're not airing that one.
Nope.
That conversation will happen again, though.
God. But yeah, we'll figure it out. It'll be fun.
It's gonna be a time and a half. I'll probably like pester people. Hey, read this Twitter name. How do you say this? And anyone that says Spock,
that was fun. No,
or spooked.
You were way more bothered by spooked.
It's insane. It's insane. Like
Kirsten Kroll, instantly. What is this? Spooked Z? No. She's like, yeah, look at him. He looks spooked. He's scared. Like he just had his jaws wired shut.
There's 1-0.
You're bad.
1-0.
It is crazy. Like
there was one person like, oh shit, I'm sorry. I thought there were 2. I was like, what? That's even crazier. You just can't see. There's 1-0.
Trenin.
No, it's Trenyan, I think, right? I think that's what
that's what it is now. But I'm saying, like, the amount of people that have said Trenin, it's like, how are you adding an extra IN?
I do love that people get upset about it. The other people get upset because he told LePant that he pronounced it Trenyan. Yeah. And people are like, no, what?
It's wrong. Yeah.
It's so funny.
That's
like when people, I'm not going to say what my actual last name is, but whenever I tell them how I spell it, they're like, are you sure? They're like, I'm a pretty good source on this one.
Yeah, I'm not going to share the government name either, but like my last name, the amount of like letters that don't exist that people add in, it's great. Like,
it's like, no, you're wrong.
An S always gets inserted every time, and like there's no reason for an S to exist in my last name. It's weird. And if you sound it out, it's pretty freaking simple. But there's so many letters that people look at it and they just like get like perplexed and freak out, and they just
no. Yeah. No. The fact that anyone's ever asked, like, literally said to me, "Are you sure about my own fucking name?" Every time I'm like, "Did you just hear what just came out of your mouth?"
Hang on though, Z. If I approached you at a bar, I asked you, "Are you sure?" and you spit the straw out that you were sucking your beer from, it'd be reasonable.
I haven't done that.
It'd be reasonable. It'd be reasonable to ask that question to a man that's drinking a beer through a straw. Are you sure you're spelling your name right?
Name. This guy doesn't even know what his name is. I bet he has a different last name. He just thinks it's this one.
Yeah, it's actually not right at all. Yeah,
First
but all right.
Last name, he just gave it the wrong one.
So yeah, comment on this video if you have suggestions, or hit us up on the Twitter machine.
Of what we talked about this episode is going to make people mad. I just have a nagging suspicion.
The Rossi thing's the only thing I can think of that's going to make people mad.
Yeah.
And again, if you listen to the context of I don't want him traded.
Oh, that's irrelevant. People would be like, "Why do you want to trade?" I'm like, "I fuck motherfuckers."
The amount of people that get mad at me whenever a Rossi thing comes up, they're like, "Stop trying to trade him." I'm like, I don't want to trade him.
Or you have the other people be like, "He's short, he sucks." Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, remember that year that he just chose not to play hockey?
Insane. That be like, he couldn't gut that one out. Like,
he didn't have the heart.
Oh God. There's only one heart on this team, and his name's Carell.
A bruise on the knee is a hell of a long way from the heart. You can't guess.
Just some of the people that I think the one reason, one of the very few reasons that I haven't just completely given up and deleted Twitter is the fact that, like, I feel it's important for me to learn that some of these people are actually real. They exist in the world. And, like, I need to, I need to, like, lose my innocence as far as, like, understanding other people's brains and how they work and the things that they feel comfortable, like the thoughts that they have, that they're like, I should share this with the world.
It's reached a point that the porn bots are replying to them being like, bro,
more reasonable. Yeah. They've become shockingly reasonable.
To this day, that's still my favorite bit going is, like, whenever Big Cat posts something about, like, a football game that's going on, and, like, he'll get, like, porn bot replies because, like, obviously he's getting a ton of engagement, and he'll just quote tweet it, be like, "Not now, Cinnamon. We're talking football."
Yeah, no, the porn bots now. Like, someone says something crazy about, like, Rossi, and, like, immediately it's like, "Hey, man, chill out." Also, pics and profile.
Also, I'll help you chill out.
You sound like you need to relax. Take a load off. Oh, I hated that. That was disgusting. I did not want that to happen.
Yeah, find somewhere else to stay next week.
Yeah, the street. That'll be fine. I'll do that. All right. We can end it. We probably should stop.
Yeah, this is going off the rails.
This is horrific. This is getting dark.
Appreciate all of you sticking through this. This episode is ending under an hour. Oh my God. This is crazy.
Wow. Look at us. Who would have thought?
Not weird. Wild.
See you in Minnesota.